Hey everyone, it's back in another video, and today we're going to be going over Ace and Infinite Magicraid and how they compare and why are people playing this game. A lot of people have been, and a lot of people are interested in it. So I figured I'd do a in-depth review. We're going to go over the gameplay and content of each of these games and compare them, the new player experience, the summoning system and how it feels in each of these games, the quality of life features, the free-to-play friendliness / the monetization of each of these games, and then the community aspect, and of course a little bit of my own personal channel and advice. Now I will be going over this game, Infinite Magicraid specifically, more in depth and giving you my full review on a second channel, which I've been covering content for daily on this game. So if you aren't interested in Infinite Magicraid, be sure to check in the comments down below. I'll leave a pinned comment with my second channel, so you can check that out if you're more interested in actually what's going on in this game specifically. Let's go ahead and jump into the gameplay and start comparing these two games. So first thing I want to talk about in regards to the content of each of these games is campaign. It's the first mode that you enter in both of these games. It's the thing that you're going to be doing most of the time in both of these games. And in Awaken, most of you know, you have a game mode where you have the normal, the hard, the mythic, and that's it. You get to mythic relatively quickly within the first week or so, even if you're not using supports and you're free to play. In this game, in Infinite Magicraid, I've been playing for a week, and I'm in Nightmare. I'm halfway through Nightmare, and it's quite difficult. It's very grindy. I've been playing very actively, and I had a decently lucky start, so definitely very difficult to go ahead and get through this point, and it's very hard to beat campaign. You can see there's another mode after this, Hell, and people who have spent thousands of dollars and have been playing for a while, for a couple weeks, they're not even through Hell mode yet, which is very grindy considering the fact that I have not spent any money, so it's going to take me quite a while, I imagine. Or perhaps, I can come up with a strategy or something, I'm not sure, but it looks to be that it's going to be very difficult. On top of that, this game mode has the campaign system where you have stars, so you need to go ahead and complete them. You need to get 3 stars, and this is super important because there's an idle mode, which gives you rewards based on how many stars you've achieved in campaign. And so you want to get as many stars as possible, but you're going to need to do the specific circumstances that you need in order to go ahead and get those stars. Definitely very grindy compared to Ace. Second thing I want to talk about is characters and the things you need to do to upgrade your characters and kind of the stylistic of the characters. First off, I think the characters in this game are very unique. The debuffs are very unique, and it's very exciting. Awaken also is very good in this aspect. Now, the one thing that I think this game has Awaken beat is the dupe system and the Awaken system and all that good stuff. I actually like the way it works, although I don't like how it's... I guess I should say I like the concept. I don't like the execution as much. So in this game, you need to awaken your characters. In order to level up a character from a star level to the next star level, you need 5 of the corresponding rarity character, or rather star level character. So if I want to get a 2-star to 3-star here, I need to put 5 2-stars in, which is a lot. And if I need to get a character from 4 to 5, I need 5 4-stars in the game, and it goes on up to 5 stars. And then once you reach 5 stars, you could start awakening your characters. What does this mean? Well, if you go into the character menu, you click on Awaken, well, you're going to go ahead and have the option to go ahead and dump characters into this 5 stars in order to level them up, essentially up to 9-star, 10-star, because it goes up to Awaken 5. That's basically what you should treat this as. It's basically like going to star 10. Now, on top of that, you actually have the exclusive equipment, which is a unique buff to each character based on getting duplicates. You need to get them up to 5 stars, and you need to go ahead and dump them into these characters, and they get an exclusive bonus. This is similar to the traits in Awaken, so I think this game has very similar situation in that. But the thing I really like about this game, compared to Ace, is they have a mastery system to each character, and you could pick sort of like Raid, Shadow Legends, very similar. And I really like this system in regards to upgrading characters, and that's I think the biggest thing it has over Awaken. Next thing I want to talk about is the dungeons, and the dungeons in this game are honestly extremely bland, if I'm going to be honest. I think that the dungeons and the balance behind them is relatively solid. I don't see anything that's going to be a problem with it, like sort of like an Awaken where Poison is king, and some of the dungeons are uncompletable. I think that Awaken has some really, really nice mechanics. The Ash has the imps. You have to kill the imps. You have to deal with the flame bomb. Gemini has the turn limit, and obviously that's a very harsh mechanic, but it's an interesting mechanic, which has the whole resistance / speed and all that good stuff. And Tulpa has the exploding shield. In this game, they just tell you what you need to do. You go into the rock guard here, and you can go in and check the stats, and you have to run dot damage. So you can see here on the passive skill, increases dot damage that rock guard takes by 100% and decreases other types of damage that he takes by 30%. So don't direct damage, use dots. It's kind of giving you the mechanic right out the bat rather than trying to figure it out yourself. And on top of this, in regards to just like miscellaneous parts of the content, which we'll go over later, I'll go over another thing that bothers me about dungeons and things like that. But really what I'll talk about next is Arena. And this game's Arena is very, very solid. It's very, very fun in the early game. I don't know how it's going to turn out in a couple weeks. In Awaken, it was very fast the first couple weeks, and then it was very, very slow the following weeks because of the tank comp, and now it's still quite a grindy meta. In this game, you run in, you burst your enemies, you're done. I don't know if people are going to find stall teams later on. I'm not sure. The game is relatively new. It's not crazy new, but it is relatively new, and they're doing balance changes quite often. But overall, I'm actually enjoying the Arena. And more so than that, they actually have a or a reward from the Arena called these books, or these Mark talent tomes. And you invest these into what's called the class talents and the Mark talents. Mark talents is from another dungeon, but these give you global stats across your characters based on what rarity they are. So it's actually really rewarding to do Arena. So you're just going to get base or extra stats for your characters, which is really, really nice. There's also Tag Team Arena for those of you that actually enjoy it. I personally am not a huge fan, but if you do enjoy it, there you go. And then I want to talk about a few miscellaneous things. First off, it's very, very difficult to upgrade your characters in this game. It's a huge bottleneck. You need to get your fodder, and the only way to get fodder is through grinding a campaign and some other things in the game. And it's very, 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 very bottlenecky. But the second thing is they have a forge, which is really, really nice. This is where you get a lot of gear sets, and I really like the gear sets. I think Ace should do this as well. Have a bunch of new gear sets. Which is really, really cool. They have a sanctuary, which is basically like a dupe system in Raid, except you don't need dupes for this. You just dump in your awakened characters and you get global stat bonus as well. And so you can see that there's a lot of grind to this game. This game is very grindy. It's not as quick as Awaken. You're not going to get that fast progression. You're going to have to grind for everything in this game. And that's generally how this game is going to go. Next thing I want to talk about is the new player experience. So I would consider myself a new player or just coming out of the new player experience kind of threshold. The first week, the first couple days, the first hours you spend in the game are extremely important. And I think that if they're not well made, that is a huge detriment to the game, because I wouldn't suggest people to just keep playing the game if you're not having fun. If you're not having fun, leave the game. It's not a good game. They need to improve their new player experience. And in this game, unfortunately, they do some things really, really well, but they do some things really, really poorly. And the first thing I want to talk about is re-rolling. So re-rolling this game is a nightmare. In Awaken, you have the re-roll set at 2/8, set of legendaries. It's very, very easy to get there. It's very, very easy to reset your account to get there. In this game, you need to create a separate email. You need to get to chapter 6, which is double the time, if not more, usually a 45-minute to an hour-long period, whereas Awakens is 20 to 30 minutes. And you need to re-roll. You can get any legendary in the game, which makes it good and bad. For one, it could mean that you take a ton of time to re-roll. You don't even want the legendaries sometimes. You just re-roll for some epics. So it means you can re-roll for a bunch of time to get a legendary you do want, or it means that you're going to re-roll a lot because you're going to get a bunch of poor legendaries. It also means that some legendary, or all the legendaries in the game rather, are less rare than they might seem, because you can always just re-roll for them if you wanted to start a new account, which is really unfortunate in my opinion. I don't like it. I like the set of legendaries that Awaken has. The second thing is the resources in this game. Both of them have very similar amount of resources that you actually get in this game at the beginning of the game. I think both of them do a great job. In this game, you do quite a bit of summons, and I'll go over the summoning experience in just a moment. But it's important to note that the summons are inherently less valuable because the rates are lower in this game. This third thing is the progression in the game. As I mentioned, it's very, very grindy. In order to progress in this game, you need to invest a lot of time. And unfortunately, in regards to quality of life later on, we'll see that it's actually active time in the game, which is a little unfortunate in regards to that. But it's definitely grindy, definitely kind of gives you hard walls to your progress a lot of the times in campaign. The next thing I want to talk about is actually the summoning system in this game. It's arguably the most important thing in gacha games. First thing is, I think that the actual summoning experience is honestly boring. There's no fun animation. There's not like a fun experience because of something I'll mention later. It's just overall kind of bland to me, and that's just subjective. But more so than that, there's actually a pity in this game, which is really nice. In Awaken, there's a pity at every 100 legendary, or 100 summons rather, you're going to get a legendary. In this game, it's every 200 summons, but at the beginning of the game, you have a pity at 50, 100, and 150, and 200 summons. The re-rolling thing is to get to the 50 summons so you can get your guaranteed legendary. So essentially the game starts, assuming you're comparing the legendaries to Awaken, at 100 summons gets you a legendary, then 150, then 200 ever since then. On top of that, the legendary rates in this game are half they are of Awakens, which is really unfortunate. But I want to talk about the experience of summoning actually. What does it feel like to summon? This is obviously a subjective point, okay? And I guess I should mention really quickly that the sacred shards in this game actually have a pity at 15 summons. And they're the exact same rates as Awaken. I don't care if you call them scam stones. I don't really care what you think. The actual statistics are the same, assuming the game isn't lying to us, right? But more so than that, the actual experience is awful in this game. I'm going to be honest. Summoning a legendary doesn't feel exciting. It's really unfortunate. I mean, obviously I get excited I get a legendary. But because of the way the game works in that you need fodder to upgrade your characters, you're feeding 90% of your epics. If you get a legendary, you're not investing into them. If you get an elite, they're instantly food. You upgrade 0 elites in this game, so you're really only chasing those epics, which is really unfortunate overall, because you get an epic, you're like, oh, it's a new character. I don't care what they are. Half the time, 90% of the time, I'm going to feed them into my main character I'm using. If I get a legendary, oh, I'm not going to use them for a couple weeks because I need to upgrade my other character or whatever, which is really unfortunate because of this, and it makes the summoning experience, honestly, just feel awful. Next thing I want to talk about is the quality of life features, and because of this game, you actually don't need to level up your character's actual level in order to promote them to the next star level. As you can see here, you can quick craft at any time and just level up your characters. I like the quick craft. Same thing as Awaken, although this game you can go up to 4 and 5 stars, and Awaken you have to level up your characters, so that is a little downside to Awaken. But I want to talk about something more important in this game, because overall the quality of life is very similar. The wish system, you have the 10s, you can't skip the summons, the single pulls in the wishes for elites and stuff, so I guess that's a downside. You can't do gear loadouts, things like that. But more importantly, I want to talk about multi-battle. So this is a system that a lot of people were bragging about to me, and I will say it is an excellent system. The only problem is they completely failed the system because it's not usable by free-to-play players half the time. Even more so than that, maybe 80% of the time. You could see here, I just started a multi-battle. In the middle of the screen, you'll see the multi-battle attempt 0 out of 2. When you're in multi-battle, you can go and access anything on the lobby screen. You can go and check your dispatch, you can go and check your shop, your packs, whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter. But the game has an inherent limit of multi-battles, 30 per day, assuming you don't buy anymore. This is awful. This is one of the worst things in any gacha game. Raid has it. It's the worst feature. It is absolutely atrocious. If you cannot get your multi-battles, you cannot take advantage of the great multi-battle system. People were asking, why am I complaining about this system? It's like, well, yeah, I can use macros. For one, half the people aren't going to use macros. You generally can't use macros on your phone. No one wants to put in the effort for macros, most of the players, unless you're very hardcore and you want to farm often. And on top of that whole thing, if I'm using a macro, I don't have a multi-battle quality of life because I can't take advantage of the system because I'm using a macro. It's very awful. The worst thing about this game, in my opinion, is that, along with the summoning, and it's much better from there, but that's definitely the worst parts of the game for me. And if you're not someone who can invest a lot of time in this game, Granted, you don't have to actually actively like stare at the screen, but every minute you have to start the battle again. Every minute, boom, 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 because you oftentimes do more than 30 battles a day easily. I do oftentimes 60 to 100. If I'm buying energy, I can do 150, 200 battles a day, and I'm having to hit try again over and over again because there's no infinite multi-battles in this game. Next thing I want to talk about is often something that a lot of people ask about before they even try a game. Is the game free-to-play friendly? What does the monetization look like? First off, I will say that there's all sorts of definitions of free-to-play friendly, but what I will say is if it's free-to-play friendly, then it will have certain mechanics in the game that encourage you to be free-to-play, or more rather than that, you can just complete content in the game at a relatively decent pace. I will say that this game I would consider free-to-play friendly. There is a lot of summons in the game. There's a lot of resources in the game. The game does give you hard rolls of progression, but if you just grind it out, you'll be there. It does take a little bit, but you could definitely survive as a free-to-play player, and it's decently free-to-play friendly. But what I will say is that the game is very pay-to-win. As I mentioned, you're going to have situations where you get into a campaign battle and you are hard locked on progression. Oh, well, you can just go into the shop. You can buy a 5-star pumpkin. You can buy a skill pack. You can buy whatever you need, and you can just purchase whatever you want in order to progress farther and upgrade your characters. Obviously, gear matters a little bit, right? And quite a bit in these games. But at the beginning of the game, gear matters very little. Honestly, you get the set bonus and you're good for most of the time. So you just care about the Awakens. If you 5 Awaken your whole squad, you should be good to go for the most part. And you can just buy that in this game, which is really pay to win. It's very pay to win. Arena is obviously going to be crowded by the whales and things like that, as every game is. In Awaken, I think this is very different than Awaken, because in Awaken, you're going to have inherent things in the game that kind of make it so that free-to-play players and whales and things like that actually aren't that far off. Obviously, you're going to get more summons and characters and things like that, but generally, if you are playing free-to-play, you can keep up with a lot of the spenders in the game. Not only that, but being a low spender is very valuable. In this game, being a low spender is good, but you don't get the same relative progress in this game as in Awaken. This game, you're going to buy something and it's going to progress you, but you're going to need to spend a lot of money in order to progress very quickly, whereas in Awaken, you can spend a little bit of money and progress very quickly. Another point to this is I want to say that they have really good packs. If you compare them to general like gacha games and what I would think of a progression from a pack, this game has very good packs, especially 2 packs in particular, the Growth Fund here, or the Battle Pass, the subscription, which is really nice, $3 per 30 days, and the packs that show up into the extra value pack are generally very solid and very worth picking up if you are a spender. But overall, the game is very pay to win, but honestly, free-to-play friendly. Now, I know my definition is very loose. A lot of people are much more harsh on the game. I will say that if you cannot invest time into this game, it's not free-to-play friendly due to the fact that multi-battles are hidden behind a paywall. So that's definitely a thing to think about. So the last thing I want to talk about is sort of the community aspect, the developers, the updates, the future of this game. So I will say that they have a Discord server. There's a lot of community interaction there, and it's decently active. Oh, well, we're crashing. But it's decently active, and you're going to see a lot of people chatting. The developers oftentimes take suggestions by players and literally act on them and put them into the game, which can be a good and a bad thing. Oftentimes, there are suggestions that a lot of average to mediocre players are suggesting, which are completely counter intuitive or very unfortunate for the later game players. So it could be a good and a bad thing. They do update regularly. There's an update tonight, I believe, every week or so. They're coming out with updates, which is really nice, and I love to see that in gacha games, especially since this and Awaken are really the only 2 I've played with have weekly updates. I really enjoy that. So that's a very nice thing in this game. But in regards to the future of this game, unfortunately, I just think that this game is kind of wishy-washy on the future. There are a lot of things that are really solid in the game, because you got a lot of new characters, a lot of interesting mechanics. You have weekly updates. However, there's no global launch date set. There's a lot of people not liking the global launch system. I think it's going to be very similar to Ace, where the soft launch players progress, doesn't get reset on the new server, because a lot of people thought there was going to be a whole new server where you're not going to get it grouped with global launch players or something like that. I'm not quite sure how that works, but I believe that soft launch players are going to keep their progress and things like that. So that's a good and a bad thing depending on who you are. And overall, I just think that it's not as polished. The developers seem a lot less professional, if I'm being honest. At least my experience in the Discord. And that's saying a little bit because, you know, well, we all know. But it's a little awkward, definitely, but I think that this game does have a potential future for sure. It's a solid game, and there's a lot of interesting mechanics, a lot of cool looking characters, even though I think that the art style is a little worse. But overall, I enjoy the game, and I have been covering it on my second channel, which will be in a pinned comment down below. I'm going to have a video going more in depth into this game on that channel as well, which I think I already mentioned, but I figured I'd mention again. So if you want to go like and talk about all the specific things, the nuances of this game, you know, like the fact that you get a legendary after 7 days, you know, things like that, be sure to check out that video if you are interested in playing it. And if you did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you for the next one.